Most reality shows thrive on constant drama and conflict, but Counting Cars always felt different. It wasn't built around shouting matches or fake tension, it was built around passion. Passion for chrome, roaring engines, and, most importantly, the stories hidden within every build that rolled into the garage. At its center was a crew who weren't just coworkers clocking in for a paycheck. They were a family, united by their love of machines and creativity. Each week, viewers tuned in to see them pour their hearts and energy into restoring forgotten rides, breathing new life into vehicles that had been left to rust. But while the cars were being saved and reborn on camera, life outside the shop kept moving, sometimes in ways that were unexpectedly painful. Away from the spotlight, the Counting Cars family endured tragedies few fans knew about. Accidents, illnesses, and sudden losses took people who once made us laugh, made us think, and made us care. Some of those familiar faces are no longer with us. In this story, we honor their memory. Here are 10 Counting Cars members who tragically passed away and the lasting impact they left behind. Number 10. Scott. Scott Jones wasn't just the parts manager on Counting Cars. He was the quiet but essential backbone of Count's Customs. The man who made sure the team always had what they needed to keep projects moving. While the cameras often highlighted the flashiest restorations and Danny Coker's larger-than-life charisma, Scott worked behind the scenes, ensuring every bolt, bracket, and custom order showed up exactly when it was supposed to. He carried a dry wit, a no-nonsense attitude, and a work ethic that made him respected by everyone in the shop. Fans grew used to seeing him behind the counter, whether he was fending off Horny Mike's antics or scrambling to deal with one of Danny's sudden rush jobs. Scott wasn't the type to grin for the cameras, but that almost became part of his charm. He was dependable, showing up every single day, doing the job, and never demanding recognition. He cared about the work, not the fame. After season 2, Scott quietly left the show. No official reason was ever given, but longtime viewers immediately noticed his absence. Later interviews revealed that he had chosen to step away, focusing instead on his personal life and health. Sadly, just a few years later, Scott passed away. The cause of his death was never publicly confirmed, though those close to him shared. It was health-related. His passing hit the Counting Cars family especially hard. Even though he hadn't been in front of the cameras for some time, his presence lingered. Danny Coker himself posted a short but heartfelt tribute calling Scott more than just a parts manager. To Danny, he was a brother in the garage, a friend, and someone who always had your back when things got tough. Inside the shop, a photo of Scott was placed on the wall behind the counter. Tucked alongside old memorabilia and crew pictures, visitors would sometimes notice it and ask about him, and the team would share a memory or two. One story that came up often was how Scott once drove across the city in the middle of the night to fetch a last-minute part that had been delayed. He didn't mention it to anyone, he just showed up, dropped the part on the table, and quipped, "Try losing this." That was Scott. Steady, dependable, quietly funny, and now deeply missed. His role may not have been flashy, but it was vital. Count's Customs still runs today, but anyone who knew him will tell you it doesn't feel quite the same without Scott holding down the fort. Number 9. Shannon Eichow. If there was one man who represented the perfect balance of precision, creativity, and loyalty on Counting Cars, it was Shannon Eichow. As the shop's lead builder and motorcycle specialist, Shannon wasn't just a fabricator, he was an artist, a craftsman capable of turning raw metal into moving masterpieces. Fans quickly connected with his calm, quiet demeanor, his steady presence, and the deep pride he poured into every custom job. Whether he was shaping a vintage chopper from scratch or solving a last-minute welding challenge, Shannon carried both heart and discipline into every build. Shannon was never the loudest man in the room, but his presence was undeniable. With his signature bandana and focused stare, he didn't need to explain his work, it spoke for itself. When he and Danny tossed around bike ideas, there was always mutual respect. And when a project was complete, Shannon often stepped back, letting Danny or Kevin do the talking while he stood silently in the background, quietly proud of what he had created. Fans loved him for this humility, his loyalty to the shop, and his relentless dedication. Long before Counting Cars aired, Shannon had already been with Count's Customs, weathering the long hours, the tight deadlines, and the pressures of building a brand under the spotlight. So when the news of Shannon's passing broke, it shook the fan base to its core. There wasn't a dramatic announcement or splashy headline, just a somber statement from the Count's Customs team confirming their beloved builder had passed away unexpectedly. Out of respect for his family, the cause of death was kept private, but the tone of the message made it clear. They hadn't just lost a coworker, had lost a brother. The outpouring of grief from fans was immediate. Social media filled with tributes, memories, and photos of Shannon. Many shared favorite moments of him, especially scenes where he worked deep into the night welding in silence, or when he took a beat-up bike frame and somehow made it roadworthy and beautiful again. Inside the shop, Shannon's workstation was left untouched for weeks. His gloves, his tools, his unfinished sketches, everything stayed exactly as he left them. Danny later explained it was their way of giving Shannon's memory space, honoring his spirit without rushing to replace him. Today, visitors to Count's Customs can still see bikes in the lobby that carry Shannon's craftsmanship. His artistry is welded into the DNA of the shop and the show itself. He wasn't just a builder, he was a legend. Number 8. Kevin. Kevin Mack was more than just the shop manager of Counting Cars. He was Danny Coker's childhood friend, his right-hand man, and the guy who kept the wheels turning both figuratively and literally. If Danny was the face of Count's Customs, Kevin was its heartbeat. He managed the crew, handled clients, kept the builds on schedule, and made sure the entire operation didn't spin out of control. Fans admired him for his sarcastic wit, his steady presence, and his unshakable loyalty. From the very first episode, Kevin established that he wasn't just there for television. He was part of the foundation, a man with the business savvy too. Balanced Danny's creative impulses. He often handled chaos with a dry sense of humor and wasn't afraid to step in when Danny's ideas risked going too wild or too expensive. This balance between passion and practicality made Kevin indispensable. Fans connected with him because he was relatable, hardworking, grounded, and always a few steps ahead. For years, Kevin was a constant presence. Whether it was tracking down rare parts, negotiating a tricky deal, or pushing to meet delivery deadlines, he made sure things got done. He had a calm, under-pressure demeanor that helped steady the rest of the crew during the shop's most stressful moments. His presence was the stabilizer that gave Counting Cars its rhythm, so when news broke that Kevin had passed away, it hit like a hammer. Fans weren't prepared. Count's Customs released a heartfelt message filled with grief and gratitude for Kevin's years of service. The statement revealed few details, only noting that he died peacefully surrounded by his family. Those close to the team later shared that Kevin had been quietly battling a long-term illness, choosing to focus on his work instead of dwelling on his health struggles. Danny was devastated. In a rare interview, he admitted that losing Kevin felt like losing a part of himself. The two had grown up together, built Count's Customs from the ground up, and turned a small garage into a cultural brand. Kevin wasn't just a manager, he was family. Fans flooded social media with tributes, remembering Kevin's sharp humor. His arguments with horny Mike over budgets, and his calm way of handling even the most difficult clients. At the shop, Kevin's desk became a memorial. Photos, racing memorabilia, and personal notes from the crew filled the space where he once worked. His coffee mug was left untouched, a quiet reminder of the man who had kept the shop moving for so many years. Even today, every decision and every new project carries the weight of his influence. Kevin taught the team not just how to hustle hard, but how to hustle smart. His methods still guide Count's Customs, even though he is no longer there to enforce them. As the team carefully rolled the finished car out into the blazing Nevada sun, Danny turned toward the camera. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of genuine emotion as he simply said, "This one's for Ryan." It wasn't just another dedication. It was a heartfelt tribute. To this day, anyone who visits the shop can still find a plaque near the detailing bay, with Ryan's name etched in chrome, shining just like the vehicles he once cared for. Big Ryan was never one for long speeches or dramatic statements. It didn't need to be. His craftsmanship said everything for him. He believed with all his heart that every car, no matter its size or value, deserved to shine. Now, even though he is gone, his memory continues to shine just as brightly. Number 5. Billy the Builder, a guest fabricator, remembered by the team. Not everyone who left their fingerprints on Counting Cars was part of the regular cast. Imps came quietly, lent their talents when the shop needed them most, and then disappeared, leaving behind contributions that could never be forgotten. One of those individuals was Billy the Builder, a skilled guest fabricator who joined the crew during a hectic stretch of projects in Season 5. Billy wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, and he certainly wasn't there to grab attention. Most viewers only caught small glimpses of him welding frames or sketching chassis reinforcements in the background. But inside the garage, the crew knew Billy was pure gold. Danny had brought Billy in when Count's Customs was overloaded with more builds than usual. They needed someone who could step in immediately, without hand-holding or hesitation, and Billy delivered with confidence. His years of experience customizing off-road trucks, rat rods, and motorcycles gave him the ability to take one look at a raw frame, listen carefully to the vision, and then get straight to work. What set him apart wasn't just his technical talent, it was his humility. Billy didn't crave credit or applause, he just loved the craft. Kevin once said that Billy had a rare gift. He could look at a half-welded frame and already imagine the finished car. He knew instinctively what kind of shocks it needed, how the rear would handle at high speeds, and where adjustments had to be made. That eye for detail earned him immense respect from everyone at the shop. During his time at Count's Customs, Billy bonded closely with Horny Mike and Shannon. The three of them often stayed late at night in the shop, not because they were required to, but because they wanted the builds to be perfect. They weren't working for the cameras or chasing deadlines, they were building because it truly mattered to them. Sadly, a few months after his final appearance on the show, tragedy struck. Billy passed away in a motorcycle accident just outside of Henderson, Nevada. He had been riding with friends on the weekend, lost control during a curve, and didn't survive his injuries. He was only 42 years old. The next morning, the Count's Customs crew was devastated when they received the news. The usually lively shop fell silent. Mike spent hours sitting alone at Billy's former workstation, lost in thought. Shannon later shared that for days afterward, he kept expecting to hear the familiar buzz of Billy's grinder or to catch a glimpse of his welding mask across the bay. To honor him, Danny dedicated a private build, a blacked out 1949. Ford pickup with bold flame accents, exactly the kind of rugged elegance Billy loved. The truck was later gifted to Billy's brother, who revealed that the gesture brought their entire family great comfort, knowing just how much Billy meant to the team. Today, a photo of Billy hangs above the fabrication station, a quiet reminder of a man who never sought the spotlight but earned everyone's respect. Though his time on Counting Cars was brief, his legacy remains alive in every strong weld, every smooth-running frame, every vehicle that leaves the shop stronger than it arrived. Number 4. Robbie Colorbomb Martinez, a custom painter. From Season 2, in the early days of Counting Cars, one of the most striking and memorable aspects of the show was the paintwork. Flames that seemed to dance across the metal, colors that shimmered and shifted in the light, and custom designs that looked almost otherworldly. This was the magic that hooked viewers. Behind much of that brilliance was Robbie Colorbomb Martinez, a guest painter who made his unforgettable mark in Season 2. Robbie wasn't in many episodes, but when he appeared, you couldn't miss him. Within Las Vegas, Robbie was already known for his fearless creativity and wild color combinations. He earned the nickname Colorbomb because he could take the plainest vehicle and transform it into a rolling piece of art. His unique style blended old-school lowrider techniques with modern airbrush shading, and he had an uncanny instinct for what would look perfect on metal before the first drop of paint even left his gun. Danny brought Robbie in for several specialty projects whenever the paint crew was overwhelmed. What stood out most wasn't just Robbie's technical ability, was his passion. His eyes lit up as he described metallic fades, ghost flames, or candy finishes. For Robbie, painting wasn't just a job. It was storytelling in color. His first big moment came during the restoration of a classic Cadillac, where he applied a multi-layered candy red finish, accented with subtle gold highlights. The result left both the crew and the client in awe. Though he was never a full-time cast member, Robbie left his artistic fingerprint on several unforgettable builds. He worked closely with Horny Mike on a skull-themed bike tank and often kept morale high, bringing donuts to the crew during early mornings and joking that sugar fueled creativity. But tragedy struck in the summer of 2016. Robbie suddenly passed away from complications caused by an undiagnosed aneurysm. The loss was devastating and completely unexpected. He had just completed a project for a private client and was preparing to collaborate with Count's Customs again when he collapsed at home. Emergency services were called, but he never made it to the hospital. The shop was stunned into silence, too. Honor him. The crew painted a mural on the shop wall featuring Robbie's portrait, complete with his signature goggles and painter's gloves, surrounded by bursts of vibrant color. Horny Mike described it as a color explosion for a man who brought color to our lives. Danny later shared in a tribute that Robbie had reminded everyone why they fell in love with cars in the first place, not as machines, but as canvases full of life and story. Today fans can still spot Robbie's unforgettable work in the earlier episodes, those candy paint jobs that shimmer like fire under bright lights. His time on screen was short, but Robbie Colorbomb Martinez left a legacy of art and passion that still rides strong on four wheels. Number 3. Jesse J. Rod Hernandez, shop assistant from the early episodes. When Counting Cars was still finding its rhythm in the early seasons, a young shop assistant named Jesse Hernandez, lovingly nicknamed J-Rod by the team, was quietly working in the background. He wasn't in the spotlight, rarely spoke to the cameras, and hardly appeared in big scenes. But if you paid attention, you saw him everywhere, sweeping floors, taping panels, prepping metal, fetching tools, undoing the behind-the-scenes jobs. They kept the entire operation running smoothly. J-Rod wasn't born into the industry. He earned his spot at Count's Customs the hard way by showing up every day, asking questions, and learning from the veterans. Danny admired him for his humility. Shannon respected his focus and attention to detail. Horny Mike often teased him, but everyone knew it came from a place of respect, because J-Rod had heart. He dreamed of becoming a builder in his own right. After hours, he would study Shannon's fabrication techniques, watch closely at the paint booth, and even practice pinstriping on scrap metal. Fame didn't interest him. His only goal was to get better and, one day, earn the right to create something lasting. But that dream was cut short. In 2014, shortly after his final appearance on the show, Jesse was killed in a motorcycle accident. Late at night, riding home on the freeway after a long day at the shop, he was struck by a distracted driver who veered into his lane. Jesse died instantly. He was only 6. The news devastated the Count's Customs family. Danny described him in a tribute as someone who reminded him of himself when he was young, eager, hungry, and filled with dreams. Shannon kept one of Jesse's practice pinstriped panels in his office as a reminder. Kevin, usually composed, was visibly shaken when talking about him. Filming shut down for several days as the crew mourned and attended his funeral, though his name was rarely mentioned in later seasons. Jesse's presence was never forgotten inside the garage. His locker was left untouched, and his photo was quietly pinned to the break room wall. New assistants often heard his story not as a cautionary tale, but as a reminder of what it meant to love the craft, to show up hungry to learn, and to give your all, even when no one is watching. J-Rod may not have been famous, but his heart and dedication carved out a place in the legacy of Count's Customs. His short life left a long shadow, and his story continues to inspire dreamers starting from the bottom. Number 2. Doc Larry Mendez, a loyal client who became family. Some of the most memorable people on Counting Cars didn't work at the shop, they brought their cars there. Over time, some clients grew closer than customers, and eventually became family. One such person was Larry Mendez. affectionately known as Doc, a retired paramedic with an unshakable love for classic Chevys and American muscle cars. Doc first appeared in Season 4 when he brought in his '67 Impala that had been collecting dust for decades. At first he seemed like any other client, polite and excited. But after seeing Danny and the team bring his dream to life, Doc kept returning with more projects. One car became 3, then 4, each tied to a story. A tribute car for his late wife. A truck he once rebuilt with his father. A lowrider he had always dreamed of finishing. Each time, Doc brought not just a vehicle, but donuts, smiles, and stories that could keep the entire crew entertained for hours. Doc respected the process. He never rushed projects, never complained about costs, and always expressed sincere appreciation. For the team's efforts, he once told Kevin, "When you're passionate, you don't count the dollars, you count the joy." Over the years, he became a fixture at the shop, often hanging out during lunch or quietly watching Horny Mike paint and Shannon fabricate. He wasn't just a customer anymore, he was family. Sadly, in 2023, Doc lost his battle with pancreatic cancer. True to his nature, he kept the struggle private, never wanting to burden anyone. Weeks after his funeral, the crew honored him in a heartfelt video tribute beside his prized cherry red El Camino. To further remember him, Counts Customs organized a memorial cruise through the Las Vegas Strip, led by Doc's El Camino, this time driven by his grandson. The sight of dozens of custom cars following behind was both powerful and emotional. A fitting farewell to a man who loved cars and people equally. Today, his favorite lounge chair at the shop remains empty, with a framed photo of him above it, holding the keys to his last build and smiling like a kid at Christmas. Doc came in as a client, but he left his family and in the Counts Customs. Family. Memory never fades. Number 1. Kenny Boom Boom Franklin, beloved behind-the-scenes crew. Member. Not all of the most important figures in counting cars stood in front of the camera. Some worked behind it, making sure the show looked, sounded, and felt real. Kenny Franklin, known affectionately as Boom Boom for his thunderous laugh and huge personality, was one of those unsung heroes. A sound technician and part-time production hand, Kenny had been with the team since the pilot. He was the guy with the boom mic, setting up shots, cracking jokes, and helping the cast feel comfortable under the stress of filming. Most fans never saw his face, but he was as much a part of the shop's heartbeat as anyone. Horny Mike once said Boom Boom had a bigger personality than most of us on the show. His laugh could fill the entire garage, going louder than any revving engine. In 2020, Kenny passed away due to complications from a stroke. The news hit the production team hard, leaving a hole that couldn't be filled. To honor him, the crew dedicated an episode to his memory. In one emotional moment, the screen faded to black with Kenny's name as the team stood in silence, counting. Cars has always been more than just a show about engines and chrome. It's about the people, the ones who poured their hearts into every project, whether on screen or off. Each of these individuals, Ryan, Billy, Robbie, Jesse, Doc, and Kenny, left behind more than fame. They left behind love, laughter, skill, and memories that continue to live on in every car, every episode, and every fan who watches.